Hey, welcome everyone. Uncovering growth in life's unsubscribed moments means learning to find strength, resilience, and personal development in situations where there is no clear plan or structure. Often we experience the most growth when life doesn't go as expected, whether it's a sudden change, a challenge, or an opportunity that comes outside of nowhere. In those moments of uncertainty, we are pushed to adapt, reflect, and sometimes rethink our approach to life. By stepping outside of the rigid frameworks we often set for ourselves, we become more open to new possibilities and deeper insights. It's about embracing the unpredictability of life, using it as a catalyst for self-discovery and transformation rather than resisting it. Welcome to another episode of The Other Side of Addiction. I am your host, Al Richards. And I'm going to do something a little bit different today. Before I introduce our guest, Kari, I want to read the bio just so you guys have an opportunity to get to know who Kari is. So, Kari Shepherd is a dedicated harm reduction advocate and peer support specialist whose personal journey deeply informs her transformative work in the field. Drawing from her own experience as a woman in recovery and overdose survivor, she brings profound empathy and firsthand understanding to her mission of supporting others on their path to wellness. For the past 4 years, Kari has worked tirelessly in the harm reduction, using her authentic perspective and professional expertise to empower individuals as they navigate their own journeys of change. So today, Kari and I, we're going to be talking about outside perspective, boots on the ground, because that's exactly what this beautiful lady does. She is out there with her boots on the ground, helping other individuals who are struggling, who are unsheltered. And, Kari, I just want to say thank you. Thank you, first of all, for taking time out of your busy, busy schedule to be on the show today, for using your voice. And also, thank you for what you do as an individual for our community and for what you do to go out there and help other individuals. So, man, I tip my hat off to you, really.
It's a privilege. It really is.
So, outside perspective, boots on the ground. Before we hit record, you saying, yesterday you came home just drenched. And it's because you was out on the streets yesterday, pretty much all day yesterday during the storm, and you're out there talking to women. Do I have that down correctly?
Yes, it's outside. There's stationary locations that I have throughout the week, and then there are some of the days that I get to do a little bit more driving around looking for people. I mean, what's going on in our unsheltered community right now is people are just being pushed all over the place. They can't sit down, they can't loiter anywhere. So yeah, some days it looks like more driving around in and out of my car, and some days I have some stationary locations. Yesterday was about 3 hours where I collaborate with our community partners to provide a safe place. Not everybody wants what I'm providing. Um, they don't want that around. So it's a little bit of both, but yeah, my primarily I have been the 5 years of my recovery been boots on the ground since about a month after I got out of treatment. Rio Grande had shut their doors and closed down that shelter, and I got involved with a small group of individuals that put together a warming station. It consisted of a utility trailer with a propane heater to keep people warm in the middle of the winter. And a month out of treatment, I started volunteering. It was from 9 p.m. till 6 a.m. that we would go out and park in certain areas to let people, we fed people, we gave them supplies, and then the people that did want to come inside and sleep and be in the warm trailer, they could. It was small. It didn't do, I mean, it wasn't for a large amount of people by any means. And, but we were doing what we can where we can, when we can. And so, yeah, one form or another, Addict to Advocate was another group that I volunteered with for quite a while. And that was um, during the midst of COVID. And we were all just kind of doing things that kept our time consumed with helping people. So each, I've worked in a homeless shelter, I worked at Odyssey for a few months. I've done all these different realms, but boots on the ground is where I feel like I excel, and it's not easy work. I get to speak from my experience and tell people, I know you want to jump in and give back, but making sure that you have some stability emotionally, spiritually, physically, all your needs met is so important. I didn't realize that at the time that I didn't have those things, but it is something I like to stress now that I've experienced that. I've watched people that volunteer relapse, and it's very triggering to be out there, not just physical triggers, but mentally what you bring home with you, what you see, the stories you hear, all that jazz. And so I just feel grateful that I made it through those moments to come out stronger and be able to help people. But yeah, the outside perspective is, meeting people where they're at. Whether that's where they're sleeping, whether that's they're then using their drugs, where they're abused. It's not easy. It's very taxing.
For just knowing who I am as an individual and learning and listening to about what you do, for me, I think it would be totally just psychic, just draining, very, very draining. And just because of the emotions, I'm sure your emotions are like a roller coaster all day long, right? Because you have so much love and you have so much care. And you know this as well as a lot of us. We can only do so much for individuals, right? Because
Yeah.
a lot of it has to do with them. What choices do they want to make? And and it's hard because I'm seeing a woman in front of me here that has so much love and care for other individuals and human life. And knowing that you've experienced a lot of this, now to go out there and want to, because somebody maybe, or your spiritual side of things may have helped you start getting on the right path, and you finally said, okay, this is the direction I'm going. I just can't imagine how exhausted you have to be at the end of the day because of all this experience that you are experiencing throughout the day.
Situations are pretty crazy. I've been like compartmentalizing is something that I have just become accustomed to, and framing it that way has been a little bit of a help because I didn't really understand at the beginning. I just kind of jumped into this stuff without a whole lot of tools or knowledge of what that looked like. And it's been a learning curve the whole time. I'm still learning new things every day, hearing stories. Once I think I've seen it all, heard it all, guess what? Something else happens. And so yeah, it is exhausting. It's overstimulating. And there are times that I've been out on outreach and heard somebody had just overdosed and died, right? And then can in the same hour hear that somebody made this monumental step that you would have never assumed that they were ready to take, or just maybe by third party, maybe by the actual individual. So yeah, the emotions are very up and down, and to be present for that person in front of you, with what your personal life is going through, and my own recovery and my own stresses and challenges. Yeah, it's a whole lot of emotion. Every single day it's a roller coaster.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And my version of it is really, it takes a special type of person to do this. My ex-wife's mom, was in a care center. My grandma ended up having to go into a care center the last little bit of her life, and seeing the individuals that work there and take care. You know, I always would say in my mind, it takes a special person to be able to do that type of work. Now, I have love and care for other individuals. However, I also know my limits, and I know that is something that just wouldn't be a fit for me. And so I'm so grateful and so blessed that God has individuals like yourself that's out there because we need them. We need more we need more carries out there
Yeah,
on the street, right? To help
could use
out.
some more berries.
I bet you could.
And that's where like I get emotionally invested. I get to provide case management, I get to provide transportation, peer support, all that jazz. So I can definitely, get invested with my time and energy into certain outcomes. And I have to check myself frequently. Listen, even though I have the opportunity to do these for folks, and here's a hand, let me, here's some suggestions, here's some things that have worked and haven't worked for people in your similar situation, or I only speak from experience. I'm not trying to, I don't have the capacity to walk somebody hand in hand through every moment it takes to get to where we're at, right on the other side, and find your recovery. So it's having them to meet me halfway. But even when there are some that meet me halfway, that doesn't mean that there's going to be success. Maybe they make it to treatment, and then something doesn't work out in treatment, and they're right back to where so it's just ever changing. Like, there's a infinite amount of possibilities that everybody's got autonomy to make their own choices. And I'm not going to be a part of every step of their way. I'm not there to help if they need help. But so I check myself frequently. It's not I'm not out there to save anybody, right? I get to provide help, and maybe some case management expenses, maybe some transportation, but that might be only 1 hour out of their whole week. So I check myself. I'm not out there to save anybody. I'm out there to guide them, and then not even everybody is looking for answers. Sometimes I'm just listening, and being somebody that asks questions and repeats back what they're saying, right? So if I repeat back to they're like, oh my gosh, they'll hear that and like, maybe that sounds a little crazy, maybe that doesn't sound right. Maybe other things come to mind as we're speaking it out loud within an individual. So empowering somebody's own journey, their own choices, empowering their self-sufficiency is something that I rely on heavily, because I can't be peer support. I can't be everybody's individual case manager. So I take a step back, and I'm like, I just get to go out and treat people with dignity and respect and compassion and love. And those are the best things I can do, making them feel like a human.
And that in itself right there, I bet is huge, right? To be able to be in front of somebody who is looked at in a certain way by society, who is shunned, who's probably already ashamed of a lot of things, and to be able to go, this individual is looking at me like they do care because they do care, and I am a human being, right? Because and I think that's where society forgets. Society forgets that that is somebody's daughter. That is somebody's mom. That is somebody's aunt. That is somebody's sister.
Yep.
And I think they forget about that. I think that they forget that there's people that love these individuals, and also not knowing their whole story. You talked about, well, even in your bio, the profound empathy. And I didn't even have that for myself until I got involved with the recovery community. Because I was one of those too, went downtown and would see the unsheltered and see the addicts down there and make my little comments underneath my breath and, ignore them walking down the street, or wouldn't even acknowledge and say hi, which I would say that to what do we call normal, which really what is normal in all
Yeah.
honesty, right? And when I started doing this show and started interviewing so many individuals and started, I get emotional sometimes thinking about it. hearing their stories and their journey,
Yeah.
right? And going, my gosh, if I was in your shoes, I'd probably be in your shoes, right? And so we don't get it. And it's individuals like yourself and so many other people who work in the recovery community or work on the streets to help guide individuals, because you just said it again a couple times, it's their choice, right? You can't choose them to go the direction that they're going. You just hopefully you're giving them enough tools to realize that they can. But yeah, I think I think we're starting to see a small difference. I think people are starting to open their eyes just a little bit more. And I remember January sharing at the Soap to Hope event here just this past year that they're starting to see a little bit more of a change. People are starting to open their arms a little bit more, and they're starting to be a little bit more accepting. And it's because of so many people that are out there busting their ass to make a difference and help other individuals change their life.
Yeah. It's about humanizing them and sharing their story where they don't get platforms like these. Some people that I've met have had successful lives and careers and houses and all of that stuff that defines success in this society. But that's they're choosing. They say this is where I want to be.
Yeah.
And just loving them like that. Not everybody just because you have a house doesn't define your success. I know where I'm at in my journey right now. Um, the materialistic things I have don't really, it makes life a little bit comfortable, a little bit more comfortable, right? Some financial security, a car, all those things that this is the spot that I need to be in to be able to help other people. But it's the trips I take, it's the relationships I have, the relationships that I've mended, and that really count for me. And my humility, my gratitude. I'm not someone that is gonna forget where I come from. I know so many names. I was blessed with this gift that Al, I knew who you were. Like I knew I can, and that's part of humanizing people is knowing their name. And people can disappear and come back and they are surprised when I know their name, like whether it's in recovery, whether it's in my job. um just treating people like they're somebody, right? And so it's been really beneficial for my career path. And I get to just make somebody feel seen, heard, and we're sharing their stories. There is a lot of success. Do I feel like it has to do with some of our policing and harassment and jail stays? And it does have a lot to do with that. But I feel like I get to plant a seed when I'm out there and encourage an individual, make them feel like, oh, they've got options other than going back to the same place that they just left.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, it's those options, right? Letting people know that there are so many options, and it seems since in the almost the 4 years I've been involved with the recovery community, it seems like more and more places are popping up to give these options
Oh
to
yeah. I mean,
individuals.
even in recovery, whether it's treatment or recovery, or hey, you're maybe still actively using. Well, maybe you can, be on methadone and still, maintain this kind of lifestyle that you are seeing fit for yourself at this moment. That doesn't always look like abstinence. That doesn't always look like, this cookie cutter path. You go to treatment, you graduate. I didn't even graduate treatment. I got kicked out of treatment 40 days in. And, I got myself up every single day. I was couch surfing with people that were using drugs still, and in those environments to where I just left. But I had a clearer head at that time after I got kicked out of treatment. And I was like, oh no, I know what that looks like. Literally, the only reason I quit using drugs was because I didn't want to go back to jail. I didn't want to go back through another booking. I didn't want to go through another detox, cold turkey detox. I've never detoxed in a facility, and it was miserable enough to me that that's where it stopped. Is I was just like, I know where this is. If I pick up, I know where that's going to take me. That's going to take me back to jail. So I got up every single day and I went to a Lano club. I went to fellowship. I listened to people. I shared space with people if they needed to talk. And then I spoke my ear or I talked my mouth off to anybody that would listen, reaching for somebody that was like, hey, I've been there. Let me give you some options. And I talked to anybody that would listen. That was literally my day every single day. And it was a woman from a women's AA meeting that I had continued to show up for. And she came up to me after a meeting and she said, hey, I see that you're really trying and it's impressive that you're showing up. I understand those challenges and the fact that you continue to show up. Hey, come crash on my couch. She didn't know me from Adam. She knew my name because I said, hi, I'm Kari. I'm a recovering addict. But and that's a huge thing too. Just because we're in recovery doesn't make us a saint. I've had to learn things the hard way, but I was blessed with this individual that gave me a chance and I got to go crash on her couch. And, every choice that I made was, is this something that is going to help me uh, obtain what I want to obtain for my own life and what my success looks like.
Yeah. And that's, I'm so glad that you put it that way too, Kari, because, when I first started this show, I had a studio and everything. I was pretty blessed, very spoiled right at the beginning. And I remember going to my producer after I don't know, it was probably about 6 months in. And I told him, I says, I don't know how long this show will actually last. And he says, well, why are you thinking that? And it's like, it seems like everyone's stories is the same. And at that time, pretty much everyone at that time I was interviewing was in long-term recovery or even a short-term recovery. Only a couple that was on the other side of the addiction who had loved ones that was battling. And he's like, no, just keep doing the show. Just keep doing the show. It took months after that before that light bulb finally went off. And it's not the stories, it's the journeys, the individual journeys for each individual person that was on the show. Some may have sounded the same, but yet it was different. And you and I talked about it earlier, when we spoke on the phone this morning about how it's different for everyone, right? Even in the recovery community, I think some of us still shun on other types of recovery because that's not what we went through. And I don't like to use this word, but I'm going to use it. Our belief is this is the way and the only way, when really it's not, right? I mean, look how many people, how many umpteen different religions are out there. Does that mean that my religion's better than your religion? No,
Yeah, that's a,
because it's what works for that individual. So, if somebody has to do a recovery in a totally different way, whether it's using another pill or a substance or microdosing, or maybe it's lighting a piece of sage on fire every day, or who knows what it may be. If it works for them and it keeps them to where they are now contributing to society and they're doing what they can with their life and they have their family and I don't think any of us have a right to judge that. And again, that's just my version of it.
that I get to be that that safe place. I am a person that supports all pathways to recovery, and that has shifted so greatly since I started in the harm reduction world. I viewed methadone and MAT treatment completely different when I first started this. And now when I was a part of that community while I was using drugs. When I was homeless myself, I was out there, but I had this tunnel vision because it was my priority. What were my needed to be met? I wasn't listening to anybody else. I didn't want any outside influences. My own stuff was heavy enough, right? So now that I have a broader perspective and get to I threw myself into every type of meeting in recovery, whether it was CA, AA, and it wasn't my substance, my DOC. There's all pathways meetings, there's smart recovery, Dharma recovery. We need options, and get the more options somebody has. And who is anybody to say that that's right or wrong? I am a safe place for all pathways in recovery. And as the drugs have evolved, as our recovery has evolved, we have to try every approach that works. And I listen to some people, and I do some motivational interviewing, and what does this look like to you, and what steps do you want to take to do something differently? That doesn't always look like they're like, oh, I just want to get on Suboxone. And I'm like, oh, you want to be on Suboxone and still have nowhere to sleep? That sounds crazy to me, but for them, that's a step in the right direction. We can't tackle it all at once anyways,
Yeah.
right? Like it's an uphill climb to get yourself to sustainability and self-sufficiency. So like let's take one step at a time and encourage somebody to make any change. You want to go get your ID? Let's go get your ID. You took yourself out of your everyday normal situation, what that looks like, and you went and you showed up for an hour for yourself to go get your ID. Like that's encouraging somebody to make the right choices. They feel accomplished. I help people with their Hep C treatment, and while they're actively using drugs, hey, they showed up every week and they picked up their medication. They remember to take it every day. I know people in recovery that can't do that. Like it's not it's there's no black and white way of doing this. And I love that I get to be a person that's kind of experienced a little bit of all these different things, whether it's support groups, fitness groups, family orientation. There's just I have my own addiction still. How much money I spend on my vapes every single month. It's not landing me in jail anymore. I'm not racking up new charges. I am still paying my bills. So to me, that's, hey, even though I don't have an abstinence based model and outlook on recovery, I get to support people and what works best for them. And we have so many opportunities and different options for folks, and I love it. I've experienced them all, and I just want to plug you in.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that one right there. Again, that's what one thing I wanted this podcast to be about as well. And you and I even spoke about this earlier. There's some places that I really, really do not care for, and I don't need to say them over the line. It's just between me, right? However, I will still have places come on the show because just because I may feel a way about it, that place just may save a person.
Yeah.
It may be just that right place, right? I mean, I know people that have gone to 8, 13, 20 something recovery centers, and then it was just one out of all those that just finally connected with them. So again, who am I to go back and just say, oh, well, it's only this or this. These are the
Yeah.
only choices that you have because again, it doesn't, right? I mean, if you and I love cowboy boots, right? I mean, I love cowboy boots. If I could have a closet full of cowboy boots, I would. Now, if you like cowboy boots, we could go shopping at the boot barn, but your style may be different than my style. What makes my style better than yours? Nothing. And it's that same way when it comes to recovery. I just kind of using that as an analogy so people understand we're all different, right? We all like different styles. We all do our hair differently. A lot of women do their makeup differently. Some guys
We
like
all come,
tattoos,
we all come from different
Yeah,
backgrounds.
yeah, yeah. So why is it that when it comes to recovery,
Yeah.
it has to only be one or two ways? Because that's not what life is, at all. So question for you on this. With everything that you're doing out there, is Kari making sure she's doing some self-care for herself?
I do. Because I manage my finances well, I am able to, I feel like, take care of myself the way that is necessary. And that's the thing. People, I do think it's an important topic, self-care. It's been a learning curve, just like anything else. But I definitely go through moments where more of my time is consumed by whether, let's just say through recovery days. Like everybody goes hard through recovery days, right? Showing up to all it, supporting everybody, wanting to, we want to support there, we want to be there, we want to be present, and figuring out, you know, we go hard in that month, and then when the time allows it, I sit down. Yeah, I can definitely neglect it at times, and then I pick myself up, and when the time comes, I'm like, okay, I've got time for this, and I just have come to figure out that self-care doesn't always look like, going to go get my massage or my nails done or whatever. Sometimes that's a good phone call with a friend and checking it in. I get the people that call and check up on me, and I can take a moment. Maybe that's what it is maybe, reaching out to somebody and kind of getting outside of myself to support somebody else, and that's a certain type of self-care, and it's intentionally doing something. I
Yeah.
didn't have time for this before, but and that's that the time management. That was not easy. Like getting to places on time, figuring out when, and I've gone to go get a massage before, right before I went out to work, and I was like, that was pointless. So it's not even necessarily about doing that certain type of thing that might be labeled as self-care. It's being present for it, pausing enough to say, this is something I'm going to do intentionally for myself, and in having taken the mind space to enjoy that, because I've done it on the flip side. I'm like, oh, I totally just like checked out, and all of a sudden I'm at this place, and I wasn't really present for the time to get there to enjoy it. It's
Yeah.
interesting, but yeah, self-care is so important. Do I get enough of it? Yes. Have I had to learn how to create my own boundaries that are healthy for me? Do I answer calls when I shouldn't? Yes. Do I show up for people when I'm tired? Yes. Do I take care of myself when I get the opportunity every chance I can? Yes, I do.
Yeah, and that's good to know because self-care is definitely very important, and it's also part of those who are in long-term recovery, right? To have that self-care, and I actually I have some of my own personal self-care that I do every month, and I've done it for years because to me that's very important, especially getting up there in the age. I mean, I'm in my 60s now, and taking care of myself is very, very important. And even like you said, some that you said that I don't think a lot of people understand that is self-care, and that's just getting on the phone and talking with somebody. I've had some things happen in my life the last 3 weeks to a month that has just really put a loop and some crazy stuff going on. And I had a coaches circle Tuesday with my coaches who trained me to be a crisis and recovery coach. And as good coaches, they they could tell there was something just off on me just a little bit. And so after the class, they even said, "Hey, when everybody signs off, I want you to stay on." And it's almost like, oh, uh, I got told to stay after class a lot, and I was always in trouble. It's like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
But
Yes.
it's because they're asking me to open up, and it really helped, right? I got to open up, and I started sharing some stuff, and something I just preached as a guest on a podcast. I had totally forgot that I even had said that. And so having them reel me back in to line me back up again, put me back on a straight path, was so healing for me. And again, that was part of my self-care of just talking with somebody, which happened to be my coach, one of my coaches, and it was so healing and so helpful for me. And I actually took their advice. I mean, I took their advice, and it helped so much to get me back online.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like the intention of, hey, I can focus on myself for a minute. I feel like we tend to uh, other people's needs before our own needs. And it doesn't always, yeah, again, it doesn't look like going to get that massage or your nails done. It's somebody that's holding space for me, somebody that's going to ask me questions, that knows me well enough to say, hey, like, how's this going on in your life? How's this? And specifically picking out pieces where I don't normally share that with other people. I don't want to appear weak. I show up for people, and you want to be somebody that they can rely on, and that vulnerability and sharing that is really an important piece. I don't do it perfectly. My life doesn't come without its challenges, so somebody holding space for me is, and that looks like a phone call, and maybe I miss their phone call, and so I get home, and that's a calling them back. I don't take it when they first originally called. When can I show up just as equally for this conversation? And that even now, though they were checking on me, I want to give my undivided attention. I do that all day in different areas of my life where I show up for people differently, and I have to. I want to give them my undivided attention. If I'm going to help somebody, let's do it right. Let's take the time and and figure this out for you. And it's in the fact that people do it for me. I couldn't still be doing what I'm doing every single day without the incredible support.
Yeah. Well, and again, as humans, we all need it. It really makes us feel if I think it makes us feel whole, right? Like we're being seen and we're being heard. And we all want to be heard. We all want to be seen in one way or another. And when someone takes that time to listen, I mean, I have friends that I know I can reach out to, and I can just unload, and they won't say one word.
Yeah,
But we can get off that phone call and I'll feel like $1 million again. Right. And they
yeah,
didn't say anything. They didn't give
yeah,
me any advice. They didn't give any suggestions. They just listened.
yeah,
And that's all that I was needing at that time. And to be able to learn those skills and have those skills, man, it's so helpful for so many of us out there.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Where do you see yourself going here in the near future? I mean, are you seeing a vision, a long-term vision of maybe something else that you want to do, or you just see yourself right now just increasing your skills, getting better at what you do?
That's a good question. I mean, definitely it is hard for me to think of what comes next. I am a convicted felon with a GED. I've gotten myself, to a good point in life where, I built a reputation for myself and a name for myself. And working for a nonprofit, that there's at any point in time where, my salary could not be funded anymore. So that is frequently on my mind. What does that look like? I've had the flexibility and trust to go about my day as I see fit. And what does that look like if I was to move on and go find this 9 to 5 job where I have to be there and clock in and be in an office space where I've had just a lot of leniency, and to be able to do what I do every single day, because it's a lot of on call, it's a lot of catering to people's needs, and that doesn't look like that's not a routine by any means. There's no routine to my life. So it is scary to think about what comes next. That could be, along the lines of school, and I'm very indecisive, so it's scary to think about, you know investing into schooling and watching other people that have gone through schooling and not even used it. And maybe it's just a a temporary point in your life where you're working towards something better and goals. There's nothing wrong with that, that you went to school and you didn't use that, but it is empowering that you can do these things. Like we set our set limits on ourselves where we're like, I don't know if I can handle that, and not going and taking and making those opportunities for yourself, or it's just going to kind of keep you stagnant. I'm not stagnant by any means, because I get this ebb and flow of workload. So but I do believe that the way that this career path landed in my lap, I was in the right time at the right place. That worked out for me. I believe that'll be the same thing for whatever comes next. In the meantime, I am, taking opportunities every chance I can to network and grow and put myself in places that I want to be and that are where I excel, and I get to be an asset to these certain different places. I literally am just a middleman. Right now I'm just a middle. I mean, between somebody that needs something and all of this that's in my head. I just have so
Yeah.
many resources and so many contacts through my phone, and it's really cool because they pick up the phone every time I call and they're excited to help me. There's numerous different places that I could leap into next, and I believe wholeheartedly that the universe will provide something where I'm going to excel, and I'm going to be valued, and where I'm going to be an asset.
Yeah. And I would have to say ditto on what you just said, because that's how I'm looking at things as well. You know, I'm still shocked of where life has taken me, just even starting this podcast, right? And falling into coaching, which was something I was never interested in, and then all of a sudden being certified at that, and wanting to get out of the construction business because it's beaten me up, and knowing that I'm working on other things. However, it's like that saying, life isn't happening to us, life is happening for us. And my version of it is, when we are working towards something that we love, that we appreciate, that we respect, and we're giving that back into our community, my version is God and the universe will bring forth or put in our path to help us to our next step. Because none of us know what our future is going to be, and we could sit and dwell on it and think about it. You talked about possibly going to school or this or that or whatever. However, again, there are no guarantees with any of it. But we live each day as it comes to us. I mean, I'm not guaranteed tomorrow, as far as I know. I'm not even guaranteed an hour from now, right? And it's just allowing my life to go in the direction that God wants it to go, which He's my higher power, and just do my best. And I'm going to stumble, and I'm going to fall, and I'm going to make mistakes, and I'm going to make wrong choices. However, again, as you know, Kari, those end up being our greatest strengths by doing that, as long as we keep our focus on the direction we want to go. It's only when our mind starts wandering is when we start getting lost, and we start really making a bad choice even a worse choice, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, where you spend your time and energy. Definitely. I have a lot of faith. When I first started my recovery, it was November of 2019. And 3 months later, COVID shut down, our city. And I had to figure out where to stay connected. And that was a really trying time for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I just plugged myself where I kept myself productive. I kept myself busy. I kept myself involved one way or another. And it's kind of been that way my whole life. I was born to a mother with substance use and left on the floor for the first 9 months of my life. I was placed into foster care when I was 1 years old until I was adopted when I was four, and then uh, found that and was adopted into a really.
Oh, I lost you. We just had it internet. Oh, now we're back. Okay.
Okay.
Now we're back.
So yeah, I just my life has been very unpredictable. It could have taken a right-hand turn at any point in time. I'm somebody that really likes change and embraces change and unpredictability. If you can't figure out how to get through those things, a lot of people like routine. They like having a set schedule every day, and I'm really grateful that that's something I became accustomed to uh, early on in my life because it's helped me greatly in recovery. You just have no idea what life throws at you. And figuring out how to navigate those things. Sometimes a relationship, money, jobs, all those things can be a downfall, and it's so quick to happen.
Yeah.
Those things can take you down so fast, and so not giving those things the power to take your everyday goals and achievements and where you're trying to go like that those hiccups happen. And I really, that's something that, having and nourishing the friendships and your support system. I get a lot of people that come back to me and say, hey, this just happened, something crisis. And I'm like, where is your support? You can't just ask for help when you need it. And that's something that I get to speak on all the time. Hey, nourish those friendships. You
Yeah.
have no idea what's going to happen. You get in a car crash, you need somebody to come pick you up, to go get your things out of your car. Whatever the case might be, there's too many things that can happen that you just don't have control of. And you got
Yeah.
to step up and ask for help.
And you are so freaking right on that. And again, right, it just happens in seconds, really. I'm going to get vulnerable here, and I did a show on it uh just about a week ago that came out. And matter of fact, my coaches ended up hosting the show, and I was the guest on my own show. But I've been having some issues with my right leg, and it's been going on for a while. And just as things have progressed, it's gotten worse. And I ended up having two surgeries within 10 days of one another. And instead of getting better, it even progressed even in the worst part again. And I worked all day, and then I decided I better get to the emergency center and went into the emergency center, and CT scans and ultrasounds. And next thing I know, I have a doctor come in and go, you just may lose your leg. Just like that.
Yeah.
And you're going, holy shit, did I just
Yeah.
hear this guy right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's how quick things change, right? That's how quick
And
life.
we catastrophize it. And then,
Yeah, and I mean it's crazy, and it was hard to hear. However, if it hadn't have been for a lot of the stuff so many of us go through in our life, right? You opened up about a lot of the stuff that you went through as a child, and issues that kind of help build your strength. And even though you didn't know that's what it was doing at the time, it did help me. And to have individuals there, you know, I didn't I didn't realize how much I was affecting my daughters with my life in a good way. I did not realize that my life choices here in the last 16 years, 17 years has also shaped them in a positive way. And it wasn't until that moment, because they were there with me, both my daughters, and hearing what they had to say. And you're just so grateful and you're so blessed Devastating news, of course, right? I've had my moments of breaking down in just in my own private time. However, knowing that you have those tools there, that support there, whew, I couldn't imagine going through that without anybody, because I don't have a partner, right? I don't have a wife, I don't have a girlfriend, and which I would have loved to have had somebody like that by my side. However, both my daughters stepped up and they were there, and that was enough, definitely enough. And it just, you have to have it. We cannot do this alone. None of us. We cannot do it alone. And when we build these relationships and we have such good relationships, because I'm sure, Kari, you're an individual, and I could be wrong. I'm going out on a limb here, but I know for me and most of the people that I surround myself with, we're very picky of who we let in our bubble, right? We only want to have individuals in our bubble who we know are like-minded, self-energy, love, care about one another. We want to grow. We want to help each other grow. We want to push each other, you know, and we still want to go out there and help other individuals. So having that is definitely very important. I'm so glad that you brought that up.
Oh yeah, I feel like my independence. Because I was a survivor from the moment I was born, right? Just fending for myself. I don't even know to be, I wasn't coddled. I wasn't held when I was a young baby. So I've definitely grown up as a survivor. I figure out a way, right? I'm strong-willed. I'm resourceful. I'm resilient, sure. But I do feel like that independence is a defense mechanism. I put up these walls. If I put up these walls, then I figure out how to get through it for myself. But yeah, we don't have to
No.
go through any like you're I don't have to go through anything myself. I want to be the strong, independent, self-sufficient woman, but asking for help is important. It's so important. And
Yeah.
having people that you trust and people that you know are going to show up for you and meet you halfway. I want someone to reciprocate the same energy I put in. So I have to do that myself. And yeah, it can be a lonely world, or it can be somebody, you just have to get through those things with the help and support that works for you. And in different scenarios, and those all look different. There's a different I could come up with all these different challenges, and guess what, each challenge I might call somebody different.
Yeah,
And try to
absolutely.
I try to be vocal about that too. Nurse those. When you need help, that's not fun to call somebody and be like, "Oh, hey, I know I shouldn't ask this. I shouldn't know I don't deserve it. I know that we haven't spoken in a long time, but I need help with this." That doesn't feel good either for either party.
Yeah. Well, and I want our listeners to understand too. You talked about putting that wall up, and I've done that in my past, right? We put our wall up because we think it's protecting us. But I tell you what, it may be protecting us from what we think is going to harm us, but it's also keeping out what could be good in our life out as also. We're so
Absolutely.
busy leaving that wall up, we're not actually seeing what's in front of us because we're so busy trying to protect ourselves that we are actually, it's like putting that force field up and not allowing the blessings to come to us. We're bouncing them away as quick as they're coming in because by golly, I got to have my wall up because I don't want anybody to penetrate it because this is where I'm at, and I don't want anybody to push me away from that. When really, I have found when I've let my wall down and somebody has pushed me in a different direction, as uncomfortable as it is, it's end up being something amazing because it's opened my eyes. And I've had some people here in the past 17 years be very, very honest with me about who I was as an individual at the time, and it's really helped me grow. So thank you for bringing that up. So we've come up to this hour already, man. It goes by so freaking quick, and I have really really enjoyed our conversation, and thank you for being so vulnerable and opening up. And two things here. if there's anything you would like to share about what you do or the Soap to Hope, please share how people can find it. And then also the last thing, what words of inspiration would you like to share with our listeners?
Oh, wow, you put me on the spot. Um, well, as far as the work I do, Soap to Hope, you can find us on, we have a website, Soap to Hope. I want to say it's .com, ut.com. And then we have a Facebook page, Instagram page. We have different service projects. We do take donations. All that information is on the website where you can have an address to drop donations off to or get involved with our service, which is once a month. And with Utah Naloxone building those kits out, that's a lot of hands on deck that we need. Those go out just as fast as they are being made. And as far as inspiration for people, um, for me, I feel like it's just important to my inspiration is for me it's kindness, a kind heart. I know I don't share a lot about my struggles and challenges, um, and just treating people kindly because you don't know what they're going through. It could just be is something simple, saying hi, how are you, giving them a hug, that really gets them through their day. I that's how I approach every situation. If I spelled everything out on my face, I wouldn't be approachable. So it's just, kind of setting aside some kindness for folks that it doesn't matter. I think I literally go everywhere, and it doesn't matter if I'm going through the coffee shop. It doesn't matter if I'm going through McDonald's. Um, I always end my goodbyes with thanks for being here. And they'll like get taken back. And they're like, well, it's my job. I have to be here. No, no, I wouldn't work at McDonald's. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
It's actually really cool. Thank you for being here and providing appreciation for people and the efforts that they're taking to get through their every single day.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks for being here. I really do. Because you will be surprised, just even those four words right there can change someone's day in a heartbeat. I remember years ago when I was working for the West Jordan Chamber of Commerce, I was the director of member relations, and I had to go out and meet with somebody at a Costco. And I remember this young gal, probably 19, 20 years of age. She she came over and she's like, "Hello, can I help you?" And she didn't really have an exciting look on her face or anything like that. It's like you could just tell that she was just there, right? And I said, "Yeah, I'm here to see so and so. They're expecting me." And she said, "Okay." And then somebody there behind with her, a coworker, said something and she laughed. And when I saw her smile, I said, "Excuse me." And she goes, "Yes." And I said, "That smile looks so good on you." And she just grinned, just this huge grin. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, thank you. No one has ever said that to me." And I was sitting watching her while I was waiting for this gentleman to come down on a meeting with. And it's like her whole demeanor changed. And that was one of my very first experiences of just by saying something kind, so small, what a big difference it made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It changes my day. It changes my day when I'm kind to people and watching their reactions to it. Some people are like really put off, and some people just like really soak it up.
Yeah.
But either way, to watch those reactions, watching somebody be appreciative of it and put a smile on their face that they didn't have before. Hey, thanks for being here. It does just as much for me as it does for them.
Yeah. Love it. Kari, again, thank you so much.
You're very
Thank you
welcome.
so much for what you do, for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us today. I really do appreciate it. And I hope to run into you in person sometime. I'm hoping to be at the Walk to Remember at the state capitol. I think that's next week. I don't know
The
if
Rally for Recovery.
Rally for Recovery. I don't know if my
Yes,
leg will allow me to do the walk. However, I'm hoping that I can at least be there for support. I've made the last 3 years and I'm hoping to make sure I get there. I don't know if you'll be there. Um,
I'm there. I am
you're
there.
there. Well, if you're
Absolutely.
there, I will look for you. I will do my best to see if I can spot you. I'm usually shorter because I wear tennis shoes. I'm a cowboy boot guy, but I'm not able to get my cowboy boot on my right foot because it's still so swollen.
Right. You do
Anyway,
what you got to do. Don't push yourself harder. It's not worth it.
that's it. That's it. Well, again, thank you, everyone. Thank you to all our past sponsors, all our past guests, all our future guests. Thank you for taking time out of your day to support us. And most of all, thank you to all our listeners. You guys are the ones that are making this possible. You guys are the ones that is keeping this show going. It's hard to believe here in about another week and a half, we actually have hit our 4 year mark for doing this podcast. And it just blows me away. When I hit 100 episodes, I'm like, everybody's like, that is an accomplishment. And I'm thinking, seriously, it is. And I really didn't think it was going to go as far as it's gone. And it's all because of everybody out there. So thank you guys. So wishing you all a wonderful day. Again, Kari, thank you so much. And remember this, addiction is giving up everything for one thing, and recovery is giving up one thing for everything. We're out.